Thank you, Patty. It's good to remember that, isn't it? Sometimes it really doesn't feel that way, but the people do have the power, and it may seem dark right now, but there are lights out there that we can look to and help us see the way and make things a little bit better. One of those is the late Harry Leslie Smith, who passed away last November. You may remember it. It felt like we were all sitting vigil along with his son John as Harry was slipping away in a Belleville hospital last year and getting his one last beer in and making sure, I think, that his son John would continue the fight. I remember falling in love with Harry Leslie Smith when hearing that he had gone to Calais at, I think, age 92 to support the refugees. Harry was born in poverty in Yorkshire and lost, I believe it was a sister to tuberculosis. Grew up in a pre-NHS, so that's their version of Medicare in England, and fought tirelessly for the working man who allowed Britain to continue to stand after both world wars, fought for the Union member, fought for the little guy, and became world famous for it. His cause is an incredible cause that so many people, very few people in their 90s would go out and campaign tirelessly like that. They would put their feet up and wait for the end, and that was not Mr. Smith. His son John, we're lucky to have join us this morning on the program, and he is continuing where his dad left off. He was with his dad every step of the way in those last several years, and it's a real honor to have you on the show this morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me on.
An absolute pleasure. I want to promote all the things that you're doing and try and help people realize just all the good that your dad did. But I've lost a parent. I'm sure a lot of people listening have felt that loss. It in some ways it feels like yesterday, and in some ways November feels like forever ago, right?
Yeah, it does. And it's a funny thing because everybody, the thing is about death and families and fathers and mothers and all of that is that we can all identify. We all know. We all will know, if we haven't already, the loss of losing love, whether it be a brother or a mother or a father or our spouses. And when Harry died in November, it was very raw and visceral, and I just consumed myself in his work to try to get over it. And in the summer months now, I find that it's more biting in August when everything is sort of slowing down and you're seeing all of these things and you're going, we would have really enjoyed this sunny day or going out to the farmer's market or any of those things. And I think the thing is that it's the nostalgia of better times that you feel when you're mourning.
That's a beautiful sentiment. It's you miss your dad for being your dad. I think when a lot of us think of the loss of Harry Leslie Smith, it's as a, for lack of a better term, a freedom fighter, somebody who believed in the good of all man and wanted to make the world a better place. You miss your dad.
The thing is that anybody that read my father's books or his essays or heard him speak and that sort of thing, because he was incredibly old but vital, in them they saw, whether it was, their father or mother that had died or a grandparent, they saw in my dad, he was the representative of all that was best in the greatest generation. And that's why he galvanized people, because, first of all, he wasn't from my generation, the baby boomers, that have much to blame for, whereas the greatest generation was the one, even in this country, that built a functioning society where everybody was included in the prosperity. And my dad and mother were part of that because they came to Canada in 1953.
Right. And your dad never seemed to forget, like so many of the greatest generation did. I feel like one of the things that really spoke to me through him was that even though he aged, he never lost that sense of youth. He never lost what it felt to be a kid. He never lost that sense of what it felt to be hungry.
Yeah, and and this is why he empathized so much with younger generations who are struggling and trying, just to get their foot on the property ladder, or just making sure that they can, live from paycheck to paycheck with some dignity. And he felt a great deal of empathy for them, because he said, I went through this, and you shouldn't have to go through this, because we fought for your rights through unions and through better representative democracy, so that you shouldn't have had to have suffered this. So he was quite angry and empathetic to those that were suffering because of the economic situation today.
How old were you, John, when you realized the magnitude of the person that your father was?
Oh, I was 4.
Oh, wow, really?
No, I was 4, because we were on holidays in Barbados, and we were on a very far distant beach, and suddenly a rogue wave came in, and it was my father that scooped me up and ran me back to shore. So I knew that he was pretty impressive by that point. But I always knew, even when I was younger, because when he told me bedtime stories, it came to a point where I said, I don't want to hear about Pooh Bear or any of this stuff. I want to hear about the story about you. So I would have been about 6 or 7 when he started relating to me about his life growing up in a very horrible ghetto in a mining community in the north of England.
Hard to picture that level of poverty.
No, it's absolutely horrendous. And it's one of those things that, when you look at it, we're only a generation or 2 generations away from that horrible time, which is what always frightened him, that he knew that we could go back to that in the blink of an eye. And it was... What always impressed me about my dad was that he suffered greatly, and naturally he had some trauma from it and that sort of thing. But he didn't want to steal the childhood of me or my brother or any of that sort of thing. He wanted to make it the funnest childhood ever, where it was that in its own way, I guess, that he got to have his childhood through watching us, ride a bike and have, pleasurable times up at the cottage sort of thing.
How beautiful. We're in conversation with John Smith, talking about his dad, the late Harry Leslie Smith, an author, social activist, a columnist, and a former soldier as well, who just did so much good in the world. And you have made it your mission to pick up where he left off.
Oh, definitely, because, look at it. My dad wrote 5 books between the age of 89 and 95, which are very important books about the Great Depression, but also about today's politics and that sort of thing. And I don't want those books or that history to be forgotten, which is why I've continued on with his refugee work, and I'm trying to build a foundation in his name that will hold the copyrights when I'm gone and all of that, so that his mission and his memory and what his generation stood for gets passed down from generation to generation to hopefully prevent his past from becoming our future.
John,
and making sure that we fight fascism in the right way.
I am Harry Leslie Smith. I am the world's oldest rebel. I think there are many things that we can do if we put our minds to it. And we shouldn't be leaving anyone out, no matter what their nationality, colour or traits are.
Elias Mackos on CJAD 800.
11:20, Dave Kaufman in for Elias, joined for a few minutes more by John Smith, the son of the late Harry Leslie Smith. John, you are, as I said before the commercial, picking up in his footsteps. You're continuing the tradition on, and there's a GoFundMe page right now with it. We can contribute to help get this next book written, right, and get this foundation started.
Exactly, and it's also to finish. Harry had an incomplete book on the refugee crisis, which I am trying to finish off as well, which is why I've been traveling to as many refugee hotspots as possible. I was, from his death up until May, I was in Europe through a lot of refugee camps in Greece and everywhere else, and doing work on that. But the GoFundMe page is Preserve the Legacy of Harry Leslie Smith, and all of that is being used to get this book written. Both books written about the refugee crisis that my dad didn't finish, and also the book about my life with my dad over the last 10 years when we traveled the world, so that he could try to not make his past our future. and tell the stories about his generation and what he endured and what everybody from his generation endured to try to make the world a better place. And then after all of that stuff, that if everything goes well, I'd like to, within a year, build a foundation that's in his name, that has some very notable people in it that are going to continue on his good works in a much more stronger way than just me traveling the world.
There are so many examples of ways that his past is becoming our future. If you go to England, where the NHS is under serious threat of privatization, my goodness, there are concentration camps on the southern border of the United States where children are being separated from their parents. This is everything that he fought and railed against.
It's absolutely frightening, and also it's the rise of anti-Semitism and racism in general. We've become so polarized. It is the 1930s, except with the rapid speed of social media.
What would your dad have said about the accusations of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party in England?
I think the point is that the accusations, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Right.
And he knew that. And he was disturbed by it because what had happened is that people, and perhaps some people of good intent, misconstrued that their anger about the Palestinian situation is not the problem, is not the fault of our Jewish neighbor. Right?
Well, we're seeing the same thing in
that it's a political thing that is the Israeli government's issue that we should be angry at.
We're seeing a similar thing with Congresswoman Omar being given a rough ride for similar views as well, right?
Yeah, right. And it's one of those things. It's one of those things where we have to be vigilant against anti-Semitism, but we also have to be vigilant against not trying to fight for a two-state solution. And the point is that the thing is that we have to always fight against those people that are going to try to wedge in just sheer ugly anti-Semitism into our lives because of just a profound hatred that has to be removed. And the Labour Party does have some issues with that. But the Labour Party in itself is a great, fantastic organization that fights for the many and not the few. And the thing is that it does have issues with anti-Semitism that have to be dealt with. But in its whole, the organization will survive, and it will do the great work that it has always done.
Having lived there for a very short period, I could say that England probably has some things to rectify about anti-Semitism, not just the Labour Party. But We're seeing the same thing here, John. And I mean, your dad and mom moved to Canada in 1953. I think the Canada in 2019 is we're not as much as the States, but we're seeing more and more hoods coming on.
Oh yeah, no. It would have appalled both my parents. It would have appalled my dad up. Like I said, in November while he was dying, he was absolutely furious. He fought against the election of the Ford government.
Right.
And it's just because, and the simple fact is that because he was absolutely offended that a political party could be taken over by radicals that don't believe in the state, but just believe in the empowerment of a very small, entitled class of people.
What would your dad say to those who? What would your dad have said to those who find that socialism is a dirty word?
He'd tell them, you know why you're on holidays. You know why you're not paying for your kid's operation. Why you actually have good roads, a decent school to put your kids in, is because of socialism. That is socialism. Socialism is not the Soviet Union. Socialism is like Sweden. It is where everybody shares in the prosperity, and to do that, you have to pay in what you can. And then that means that if we help the vulnerable, our societies don't become radicalized by either extremists on any type of level. Because once everybody gets a fair shake in life and has enough food on the table, you don't have a lot of terrorists because everybody has skin in the game then. Who would your
dad have backed for president in 2020?
Oh, he'd do Bernie.
Okay.
I know he would have backed Bernie.
Well, I guess for him, age wouldn't have been a factor, right?
No, and that was one of the things. Like there was talk it was sort of like people did ask him at one point in time whether he would have considered running for Parliament. And he goes, no, right? He said, I'll take my naps on my own on my own time rather than sitting in the house sleeping.
John, I got to say, I really appreciate you spending a couple of segments with us this morning. I hope our audience has learned, and I felt like I sat visual with you in that hospital that night. I don't know how to explain it, but it was, your dad had a real hold on so many people, and my still almost a year later, my deepest condolences to you. But man, what a difference your dad made and continues to make.
Thank you so much. I'm very proud of him, and I'm proud that I was part of his Last Stand tour.
John Smith, thank you so much.